Now, hi everyone. So this interview will be in English only, and the subtitles will be available, of course, after on the YouTube channel and other places. So welcome everyone. This morning, it will be again another big interview about mm, let's say people's health in general, but vaccination, not just COVID-19 vaccination, but what's happening right now in all what we could call now dismiss. In Quebec province right now, we have an emergency, overwhelmed right now with many flu and does it work? Should we consider again having vaccination? And I will have someone to discuss that with me this morning. Again, it will be Nicolas Hulscher. Nicolas Hulscher published some things about the generic vaccines recently, and the statistics were not good. If you see that, peer-reviewed reanalysis of the Henry Ford vaxxed versus unvaxxed study. So people who were vaxxed versus people who were unvaxxed. And vaccinated children far sicker across all 2022 chronic diseases. That's huge. We're talking about neurodevelopment disorder, 1,254% more. Autoimmune disease, cancer, autism, motor disability, speech disorder, mental disorder, asthma. So people, young children vaxxed are more subject to have more impact about that. And this is a small glimpse of what Nicolas and the Peter McCullough Foundation are working right now. And there's also the flu shot. We'll talk about it in a few moments. So, with me to discuss that, we'll receive Mr. Nicolas Hulscher. Welcome back, Mr. Nicolas Hulscher.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you to accept this invitation. I think it's more and more important, and you made a strong declaration recently about more death from COVID vaccine than World War II, World War One, and Vietnam. And I will show the people just the statistic that you published and you showed to people. Um, so we'll begin with that. So 2025, it was a big year of disclosures, I think, but 2026 will be more. So these were the stats. Uh, when you when you published that at first, did you believe the numbers? Were you shocked about these numbers?
No, I was not shocked whatsoever, unfortunately. So, yeah, we now have three independent estimates ranging between 470,000 American deaths to up to 840,000 American
Wow.
deaths from the mRNA injections. And again, these are independent estimates, completely different data sets converging on this range. And it was never surprising to me for the simple fact that of the simple mechanism of how mRNA technology and these gene transfer platforms work, where they deliver the lipid nanoparticles carrying modified mRNA into your vital organ systems, such as your brain, your heart, your bone marrow, your reproductive systems, and other vital organs, and instruct them to become toxic non-human spike protein factories. And
Hmm.
so this is not surprising to lead to multi-organ failure and death via multiple organ systems, as we also demonstrated in our other study, a systematic review of autopsy findings in deaths after COVID vaccination.
Yes, and with that also, uh, a fast question: do you see is there a vaccine more damaging than the others? In fact, I think they can cause all different damages. I have a friend in Florida who nearly lost his life when he got the Johnson flu, the Johnson COVID-19 shot. He felt, and he was safe because he was in Florida. My mother is sick since she took the AstraZeneca. I have a word in French with another meeting. She's at the hospital right now. She had the brain fog. Many neurologists in Quebec, Canada, knows these effects. Even a paramedic confirmed to my father this week that yes, vaccination finally caused many damages. So, do you see a pattern, a trend from each of the vaccines, or for you it's all mostly the same?
I see a trend with all of them, with all of the COVID-19 vaccines, especially both mRNA and viral vector are both deadly and dangerous. And we have to remember, AstraZeneca, which is viral vector, and Johnson and Johnson
Yeah.
may have been even more deadly than mRNA, because for the simple fact, both of those were pulled off of the market. Actually,
Yeah.
those were gone. They were inducing vaccine-induced immune thrombotic thrombocytopenia, where you get these blood clots all over the body, resulting in death and fatal outcomes. Those were very, very dangerous. And it was now confirmed recently that the viral vector ones are also carcinogenic. They increase risk of cancers, any cancer, by about over 40%. They may even be more carcinogenic than mRNA, according to that study. So yeah, they're all bad. mRNA is still obviously terrible in that it has different mechanisms of how they work, but both involve the bodily production of the highly toxic spike protein in all of
Yeah.
the organs. And so they're both bad. And then compared to conventional vaccines, childhood vaccines, those are nowhere near as dangerous as the COVID vaccines.
Yeah, the effects were more rapid, I think, with the adenovirus, AstraZeneca and Johnson. It was not the same time, same type. And yes, this was who blocked me to take the shot when I saw they use effectively chimpanzee material in that. People did not believe me at this time, but anyway, it was published. Now you have the FDA who will put a big warning. Is it the FDA? I'm correct, not the CDC. So it's not the same thing. So there will be a big labeling warning about these effects on the vaccine, like myocarditis and other things.
Not anymore, not anymore. There was supposed to be. In
Oh,
fact, the internal FDA scientists recommended there to be a black box warning,
yeah.
but unfortunately, FDA leadership, Marty Makary, FDA commissioner, and Vinay Prasad, head of CBER at FDA, they came out on TV and said, oh, actually, we're not going to put a black box warning on it. And they gave some nonsense excuse. And so
Uh,
it appears FDA leadership is still compromised, and the biopharmaceutical complex that pushes mRNA on the population is still in full control, unfortunately. So, yeah, we thought we were going to get at least the black box warning, which should have been there since 2021. And in fact, the shot should have been pulled off the market in 2021, but we still can't even get to the mere black box warning, despite the fact that we have confirmed so many deaths as a direct result of these. Even the FDA admitted to 10 child deaths and still no black box warning. So this is very concerning.
yeah, and in Quebec province, they continue to inject these things on women, pregnant women also. Uh, so it's totally not. No one. So, did you receive any answer or any call from some people with your what you published, with the McCullough Foundation published about these effects? Were they worried? Did they ask you questions, or they ignore you, or?
No, no, we have not received any direct communications from the FDA interested in our studies proving deaths from the shot. Autopsy confirmed. We thought we would have, because they are actively seeking that evidence, but they have not reached out. They have seen our study. Some of our studies were sent to some HHS officials, but we don't receive any
Hmm.
response. So, yeah, this is very unfortunate. It appears they would like to still keep these on the market and continue to administer them.
So money before. This is what we must understand. Sadly, do you have contacts with RFK also? Is Mr. Kennedy talk to you, or are you in contact with him?
No, we just
Not
had
yet.
some brief interactions back last year, earlier this year during the bird flu mass culling debacle, and I provided some materials to help stop the mass culling of our chickens, but that's about it. Nothing regarding the COVID-19 injection debacle.
Wow. Okay, and there's so many things yet. So there's the peer reviewed, the like you called you do you reevaluate a peer review. So a peer review of the vaccinated versus unvaccinated study. So about all the vaccine combined. This is a study. This is a huge study you talked about. You talked about it. So, what can you tell us about this study? More the statistic again. It's clear. Is it clear now that vaccinated children are more at risk than unvaccinated children? Because right now in Quebec, even they found one case of measles, and they probably want to vaccinate all the children. What you can tell us about this reviewed study again?
Yeah, this is very, very important. This was the Henry Ford birth cohort study presented in the US Senate hearing on September 9th, 2025. It is the largest and strongest vaccinated versus unvaccinated study ever done with the common childhood vaccines. And they found in most categories, most chronic disease categories, the vaccinated are much worse off. Our peer reviewed reanalysis of it actually found that all 22 of the chronic disease categories are indeed higher in the vaccinated. We peeled away the modeling they used. And when you look at the raw numbers, the raw proportions between the groups, the vaccinated were always worse off, including in serious outcomes such as childhood cancer. That was 54% higher
Mhm.
in the vaccinated group, as well as autism related diagnoses. So, the conditions that make up the profile of autism spectrum disorders, such as ADHD, tics, learning disabilities, we grouped those together and we found that the vaccinated children are at a 500% increased risk of experiencing autism like disorders.
This is important, and these vaccines seem to be to cause many brain damages. Um, this is, I think, the first time we see these numbers. And again, when you put this number publicly, did the media call you or someone or important, or they just ignore what you did? For them, it's non-existing.
Yeah, for the government officials and public health agencies, it appears this is non-existing. Now there are some senators and some representatives in our government and some congressmen that do take this seriously, and
Okay.
I believe they have viewed this information. But at the leadership level, I'm not aware of them seeing these materials. They may have very well seen it, but we again have not received any communication. Given how serious this is, we would expect we would, as children currently receive up to 81 doses by age 18 here in America.
Yeah.
It's a very dangerous policy.
That's crazy. Yeah, the children are receiving a mass injection schedule right now, and they begin now. I think it was supposed to be. I thought it was supposed to be more like 6 months and older, but from what I heard, it's below 6 months. They begin to receive some vaccines.
Oh, they receive vaccines right at birth here in America. Hepatitis B, they're born and the same day at the hospital they get injected with hepatitis B injections.
Wow.
And then in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, they receive more and more batteries of vaccines. They receive over 20 by age 1, 32 by age 2. So they are loaded at a very early age during critical neurodevelopmental windows. And it's not unexpected that we see all of this chronic disease in the vaccinated children.
Yeah, and People will argue and publicly when we're posting that well, we must avoid a pandemic of something uh, or to like to contain the like the avian flu or whatever. We try to contain it with the vaccination, but with all these vaccines, do you think that it is worth the effort now in 2025, or we should consider again to stop these, to have a moratorium about that, to think about what's the future of that?
You mean for any vaccines?
Yeah, for any vaccine, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, going towards the future, honestly, if a vaccine actually worked and was not dangerous and causing illness, that would be great. But
Hmm.
we have not seen that in a very long time, and none of these vaccines currently are properly tested. None of them were licensed based on placebo-controlled long-term trials, so we
Mm.
really don't even know their full safety profile. But from the VAERS reports, vaccine adverse event
Hmm.
reporting system, we see that these childhood vaccines, many of them have caused mass casualties since the 90s, thousands of deaths, thousands of disabilities, permanent disabilities. And so, again, these are not safe. And so, I don't want to see another rushed out injection for any future pandemic. It
Hmm.
will likely drastically backfire as the mRNA shots did.
Okay. And were you aware in 2019, or maybe after that, maybe so I reposted this morning because someone uh, um, talked about North Carolina University. Let me show you. I don't know if you saw that. It was like disclosed like in 2021. Secret docs reveal Moderna sent coronavirus vaccine to North Carolina University weeks before pandemic. So this was published on June 2021. And North Carolina seemed to have, I don't know why, but seemed to have an edge with Moderna vaccine before even the pandemic began. So we're talking about, in 2019, they received this study, and also the vaccine as a mRNA corona vaccine candidates, because Moderna was not a big enterprise to do that. So were you aware of that? And the NIA was involved also with that.
Yeah, I was aware of transferring mRNA injection materials or
Hmm.
genetic code for these vaccines. Yeah, before the pandemic began. So it
Yeah.
appeared, yeah, they knew that something was coming. And that leads to the suspicion that this whole thing was intentional and deliberate,
Mm.
not some accidental laboratory leak.
Yeah, so all the laboratory leak narrative could fall if it's really true now. So it could have a huge impact with the NIH or CDC or FDA. Do you think, or they're protecting it from all these influencers, or maybe suits? Maybe they will lawsuits after them.
Oh yeah, they would face if it was proven, if they ended up admitting that they were already aware of a pandemic before any pandemic even began, yeah, they would face a hellstorm
Mm.
of lawsuits and legal action and possibly prosecutions, criminal prosecutions,
Yeah.
because we have to remember how many people died from both SARS-CoV-2 and the vaccines. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands, millions and millions of people, hundreds of millions injured from both the virus and the vaccines. And if this was deliberate, as it appears to be, somebody has to be held to account for unleashing this sustained mass casualty event.
Yeah, that will be a big fall of many people, I think. And you talked recently again with the flu vaccines. We had a scandal, the Tamiflu scandal in Canada before, and also in the United States. Again, you publish some statistic about it. Recently, flu vaccines a complete failure. Instead of protecting you from flu, they do the complete opposite. and increase your risk of flu by 27%. A major Cleveland Clinic study, N53-402, found that 26.9% flu shot effectiveness, a drop. It was a drop. This is a drop of effectiveness. Is that right?
Yeah, that means it's negative 27% effective. So, in other words, it increases your risk of flu by 27%, completely ineffective. And clearly, this indicates it's dangerous and making the issue worse. You know, it's not just not working. The vaccinated Cleveland Clinic employees, flu vaccinated employees, there was about 80% of those 50,000 more vaccinated,
Oh,
and they got the flu much quicker than
wow.
the unvaccinated population during the flu season. So it appeared they were experiencing some sort of immune dysregulation from the shots, resulting in increased infection rates.
Okay. And in your studies, you have so much published studies right now. You're working hard with the McCullough Foundation. Uh, the 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 thing about the antibody enhancement immunization system. So, do you see the effect now, like the subspecialization of immune system, the EDE, ADE, yeah, antibody enhancement, I think. So this was a more special. This was an effect of the vaccines. So do you see this effect right now in the population? Because we have so many people sick right now of many kind of strange disease. It seems to be rare, but always they're putting many numbers again from the air. They don't show the studies in the media too.
Yeah, we're seeing vaccine acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, or what's called VAIDS, where actually the immune system becomes severely dysfunctional, allowing cancers and other infections to easily infect the body. And so we see diminished T cell counts, so the body cannot effectively fight things off anymore. And we're seeing gene expression dysfunction in critical genes related to immune function in the vaccinated individuals. And this was seen in a recent study that came out, and there was
Hmm.
over 51 million people, and it was the entire South Korean population. The whole country was in it, and they found the more mRNA doses
Hmm.
the individuals got, the higher their risk of other infections became. Children were hit the hardest. When they reached the fourth mRNA dose, they started to suffer about 600% increased risks of the common cold and other upper respiratory infections. So it is depleting the immune system and dysregulating it, allowing these other infections to easily enter their bodies, and they're left defenseless.
Okay, wow. So, yeah, to confirm again, do you see more doctors coming with you to talk to you, maybe undercover because doctors can't speak? We have the same effect with the sorry, veterin, veterinaries now with the the avian flu or the bovine flu or whatever. Now they in France they want to inject 570,000 cows with a vaccine now in emergency for 1 or 2 cases of whatever the disease. Uh, it's a total mess even in our food chain. Do you find it very preoccupant, or are you worried with that?
I'm very worried. They must not proceed with mass vaccinating animals against avian influenza. Recent studies already demonstrated when they mass vaccinated poultry in China, and it resulted in mutations of
Oh, wow.
avian influenza because these vaccines are non-sterilizing. So the cows, they'll still get infected, and if they still get infected, that means the virus will mutate once it's inside of them to evade that protection, and this can result in human spillover and making the virus even more transmissible among the mammals. And so this should not proceed. It's a very dangerous plan. It will also contaminate the food supply. if those cows are going for slaughter to be turned into meat products, much of that vaccine material may still be present in the meat products as well as their milk products.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, so we must lower our consumption of maybe sadly of meat and milk, but this is a bad plan. This is a mad plan for people. It's not. In Quebec province, yesterday in Ontario, they killed 50,000 turkeys, I think, something like that, in Ontario again. Yeah, for a few avian case, whatever. We still in this mess in Canada. More maybe. Do you have contacts again with some doctors from Canada talking to you, or is there a link with some organization all across maybe the Western world, not just in the United States?
Yeah, we have contact with some organizations across the world, and we're all trying to fight really towards the common goal of really stopping the mRNA program first and foremost. That seems to be what many organizations are seeking, and as well as in Canada, I know the Universal Ostrich Farm debacle. We were covering that and trying to stop that and raise awareness of that. But unfortunately, we failed.
Hmm.
We failed, and that was a travesty that they slaughtered those ostriches. But
Yeah.
yeah, right now here in America, though, we are helping lead with a few other individuals a multi-state effort to put a moratorium on the mRNA injections, with multiple lawmakers and government officials from multiple U.S. states. And so we expect many bills to be introduced in the next year, early next year, to stop the mRNA injections.
Yeah, even for the domestic animals, yeah, like cats, dogs, and stuff like that. And there are many small animals that are dying very fast now. I saw I saw a study recently, and it remind me of something. Do you saw something about the million that could be attacked right now with the COVID vaccine, like the million sheet? So it's about the nervous system, of course. So if it's true that the million is attacked, well, it doesn't go well for the nervous system of many people right now, even in the brain or the articulation. I have people right now suffering for many problems like articulations or cognitive dis- dizziness, but also it's not normal. So do you saw something about this?
Yeah, we published a major study recently looking at the neurological consequences of the mRNA injections. And we found about 86 distinct serious central nervous system adverse events. And one of the main ones was
Wow.
demyelination syndromes, or the destruction of your neuronal protective sheaths. So
Mhm.
like we just showed there, you do not want that to wither away. That is what
No.
is protecting, yeah, the axons. It's what's protecting your nerve cells and the
Mhm.
communications between them. So when that
Yeah,
starts,
also the communication, because even if the sheet is not full attack, if the current or the transmission of communications chemicals is stopped, well, it makes many problems, and if it's mostly degenerative. Am I correct saying that?
yeah, well, it's a very bad thing. It's a very so yeah. If your nerves cannot communicate to each other, that's when you'll start to see some even psychiatric adverse events, such as anxiety, depression, sleep disorders, and we even found signals for schizophrenia and dementia and Alzheimer's and all sorts of
Mm.
horrible things when you start to attack those neurons, as well as autoimmune disease or it's related to some autoimmune diseases, multiple sclerosis, that's involved in this, as well as many others. But the clinical manifestations of these demyelination syndromes is serious, and some people can become paralyzed, right?
Yeah.
And this also relates to Guillain-Barré syndrome, right? People will get drooping of their face, half their face won't work. And,
Mm.
they may even stop being able to breathe because their nerves have been so severely damaged. Their brain won't be able to send signals to the lungs. So again, this is very bad. We do not want this happening. And just this alone should have necessitated the withdrawal of these products.
Yeah, because it's uncontrolled. It's not well studied right now, and many people are not aware of that. It may be in the medical corps. By the way, many doctors right now ignore that. They're not aware of that. They don't read these studies. I think, or maybe they have an overflow right now of studies. Or what's their excuse?
Yeah, there's no excuse. There's no excuse for doctors still giving these to not be reading the evidence of what is coming out. That is their job, and many are failing miserably and causing harm among their patients. And so, that's why we're trying to spread this information as far and wide as possible so more and more healthcare providers understand what these do to people, unfortunately. And I think we're making progress. Vast majority of healthcare workers in the U.S. are refusing these, so they're not taking boosters anymore. They know they're bad, but there is still that small percentage, about 10 to 15%, that remain highly ideologically compromised.
Okay, yeah. So, wow, we have a mental work to do before, yeah, for them to prepare them for the maybe a sense of ethical world that it seemed to be missed from them from their studies. They learn how to repeat what they learn in the books. They passed the exam, that was good, but there's a lack of ethical mindset, I think, and reflection also. And again, thank you for all your work for 2025. It was awesome. It was fantastic. It was a big year. But about 2026, what you see ahead of you and with the McCullough Foundation, do you have a congress for convention or special events or with the government's representation, something like that? What's ahead for you for 2026?
Yeah, for 2026, for sure, we have a lot of studies, very critical studies that are going to be coming out, that are really, we hope, will put to bed the mRNA debacle, because they are very damning and very serious. One of them, we identified Pfizer mRNA, DNA, plasmids, and the vaccine spike protein in someone 3.6 years after his last shot. So we basically proved that these vaccines last for many years. They do not go away. And we have many other coming out, excess mortality, cancer, all sorts of things. But that's just one facet. And like I mentioned earlier, one thing that's critical is we are collaborating with many lawmakers across the country here in the United States to introduce bills and to put a moratorium on these shots. And so we already, some of them already filed the bills, some of them are expected to in 2026. That's 4 states so far, but then we expect there to be up to 15 states getting involved in this effort. And we just need one to pass, just one. If one
Okay.
state passes it, that will lead to the chain reaction. But we are very hopeful we will have that one state, and 2026 will be a watershed year in that aspect. We will be providing very intensive scientific support to these lawmakers so they will understand what has happened. And so we are bringing the receipts, right? This is not fake. This is all very real, and they will understand that.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think you must be in contact with Joseph Ladapo, maybe in Florida. Where he did a great job to uh, to collect the data from the people who suffered. I think so. Florida I think, will be a good state to have this basis.
Yeah, yeah, very good state. We will need a bill introduced there. I'm not aware of any this year that were introduced. We know Florida Surgeon General Joe Ladapo, though, did call, for the removal of these shots. He said they're not safe for human use, but he does not have the power to pull them off the market unfortunately. So we need a authoritative body with the power to put a moratorium on these, and that remains to be seen. But again, I think this can happen in 2026.
Thank you very much again. And just to show you, in Quebec province right now, the situation of our hospitals, well, it's already full and it's not the Christmas time. So emergencies are already full. For the flu, of course, we have a kind of epidemic of flu, but they began the flu vaccination in October and at the end of November. So you see the rates. It's incredible. But again, it puts a pressure even of our health system, and people are saying, well, if they don't get the flu shot, that could be worse. Well, when I see that, I'm not sure it would be worse than that if they don't have it.
No, it won't be worse because not only is it mismatched, it doesn't even match the circulating strain, which I believe is H3N2 subclad K. This vaccine is not effective against that, and like shown in that previous study we talked about, when it's not matching whatsoever, it causes immune dysregulation, dysfunction, or what's called viral interference. And they will suffer these increased infection risks, and it will make the problem much worse than if nobody got the mismatched flu vaccines.
So thank you again for your expertise, for your work. And I know it's a big work. You're very busy. You don't stop. Thank you to be there. And we'll continue to follow you, of course, in 2026 and to see what's happening. Maybe some lights will open in the mind of some government officials. We hope so.
We hope so. We hope so. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Wonderful day.
You
Thank
too.
you. Bye.
Thank you.
So it was Nicolas Hulscher, from the McCullough Foundation. Yeah, he answered all of our questions. And as you see, there's much to do. 2026 will be another big year. Our work is not finished. Daniel Brisson, FNL Freedom News, Nouvelle Libre. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.